Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to your I Write coaching session with Inger Lanier Taylor. I'm going to be talking this evening about how to write your story without bleeding on people. So, I want to come on in and let me know you're here. I'll greet you. Hey, Lamia Smart, how are you? And welcome. I want you to take a few minutes to go ahead and maybe share with some of your people, whether it's you who are considering writing your first book or whether you're going to do an ebook or a manual. Go ahead and make sure that you share this with some of your friends and followers so that they can get some of this same information. It's going to be three pointers that I'm going to give you, or just say three tips that I'm going to share with you about how to write your story without what I call bleeding on the people. So, first of all, my name is Inger Lanier Taylor. I am the CEO of Indie Season Publishing, where I have, for the last 20 plus years, have assisted in people editing their books, whether they're creating ebooks, even doing video trailers, all things books and manuals. I have been doing that for 20 plus years. And so I always like to use the analogy that I help you make your book writing dreams a reality. Oftentimes, and what I am getting questions about over the last part of last year, especially, is people who may have gone through some traumatic experiences, whether they were family issues, whether they were rape, whether it was abuse, whether it was abandonment, whatever the case may have been throughout their lives. And at some point, they decide that they need to they are desiring to write a story about their life. Hopefully, they are giving the healed version of this. But what I want to give you is some pointers and some tips as to how not to write from a wounded perspective. You want to write from a healed a healed perspective. And so, as we go forward, I want you to remember a few things, and that is your voice print matters. The words that you write are words that will be left in the earth even after we're gone. The thing that you leave in the earth, whether it's an ebook, whether it's a book, whether it's a manual for corporate America, whether it's a how-to book, whatever it is, those words will be left in the earth forever. And so what you want to make sure is that you leave the best version of you, the best version of your voice in words, so that they're not misconstrued, so that people who are reading your story will be left in a better position, or feeling like that they learned something, that they matured through your reading, through reading the legacy that you left in the earth. So first of all, I want you to keep a journal. Okay. Oftentimes, whether you are keeping your own personal journal or not, typically when people are writing, they want to first go and just begin writing. And so what comes through is a lot of anger, a lot of bitterness, a lot of the trauma that they have gone through, whether it was through childhood, whether it was through marital relationships, whether it was even through death, a loss of a loved one. And so they haven't processed, or maybe you haven't processed that information or allowed yourself to write it down. Sometimes when you're writing is cathartic, so it's part of a healing process. So number one, I would encourage you to write a journal, and in that journal you're going to write down everything that you feel, everything about your situation. Pour out everything, even if it is anger, even if it is bitterness, even if it is trauma. Make sure that you are documenting and writing freely in this journal. Remember, it's nobody else but yours. This is your personal journal. And so what you'll begin to find is that you'll begin to feel better, because now you have had a place to release this information and put it on words, put those words to paper, and you've gotten it out of your soul, out of your mind, and now it's on paper. So this is the place that you can pour your heart. This is a place you can pour your disappointment. This is a place that you'll be able to put your pain, all of those things. So number one, you're going to do is you're going to keep a journal. Now, your journal is not necessarily your book, okay? Because, like I said, you're going to put everything that you have felt. Maybe it was from childhood even to adulthood, maybe some repetitive cycles. Maybe it wasn't someone else who abused you or neglected you. It was maybe it was you who abused yourself, and you need to be able to document those things for your own healing process. Oftentimes when I have looked at manuscripts and say a client is maybe wanting to talk about a family relationship or a family dynamic of some very hard um, information, or some things that they endured that just were not, the things that should have taken place in their young life or in their adult life. And because of those things, it caused them to choose or to make bad choices and bad decisions. And so maybe they repeated some cycles. So, first of all, even after you have written and you're documented in your journal, all of these things that may have wounded, and maybe there were some good things that you can put those in there as well. But I am going to encourage you for number two, if you and when you decide to move forward with this book, say for instance you want to talk about a mom who possibly abandoned you at the age of 2 years old, and you went to live with your grandmother, and you were heartbroken, and you made bad choices, or always felt like nobody wanted you because your mom didn't want you, whatever that case may be. So now you've decided that you're going to write a book about your journey and how you have healed and come on the other side of this. I would always suggest that you talk to the people that you will potentially be writing about in this book. Because ultimately, what you want to occur is you want there to be a dynamic of healing. Maybe at this particular point, you may have not been on the best terms or speaking terms or whatever it is. But like I said, your words will be left in the earth, and those words can be used as from a healing perspective. You want to be able to talk about it in a way and such that you're not isolating some of the family members you were talking about. Like I said, maybe it was your mother. Maybe she was the one that dropped the ball on you, put it that way. And so now you've grown up, and now you have come to a place of healing and wholeness. And you want to talk about your journey. You want to talk about your story. You want to talk about how your life was impacted, maybe some things that you went through. But even as the reader is watching or journeying through your book, that they come to a resolve to see that yes, this may be how you started, but it's not how you end. It's not how you end. That inside of your space and inside of your journey, even through your journaling, that you are able to help and assist them to get to the other side of it. Like I said, when you begin to write, you want to then make sure that you're getting or talking to your mom. Say we're talking about the mom. Maybe it was the mom. You go to the mom and say, "Hey, I'm considering writing a book about my life. Considering writing a book about the prospect of, maybe what happened, what caused you to leave." You may not get the kind of response that you think you should, but I always encourage that you make sure that you are getting another perspective. Make sure you're getting the person's perspective, because this is your book, right? And you say, well, this is my book, this is my story, this is what happened to me, and I don't have to worry about anybody else. I beg to differ, because you want to be in a place where there can be reconciliation that takes place. You don't want to further cause a divide in your family because you are exposing somebody else's life. Now, it's your book, true enough, but you can talk about your story without throwing everybody else under the bus. You can give some details that aren't too much, because sometimes you can give too much information for the reader that's not necessary, and it doesn't take away from your book. It doesn't take away from your story, but you can write that, and that's where a good editor or a writing coach will come in, is when you present your manuscript. And you may have even noticed it, that maybe some of your friends' books that you have written or read, and you can see that they're still hurting. You can identify the fact that they're still wounded, and that's what I call bleeding on the people. You can tell that they are not writing from a healed place. They're still writing from a wounded place. They're still writing from an injured place. They're still writing from a place of bitterness. And you do not want that to be. Like I said, this book is going to be out there forever. I don't care if it's an ebook and it's something that's just being downloaded. Those words will travel the world. Those words will go places that you and I will never probably get to travel to. So you want to make sure that you're not giving the wounded version of you. Not saying that that is not part of the process, but that the people see the healed part, so that when they read your story, yes, this happened to you. Hey, Stephanie. Yes, this occurred, but that's not how the story ends. The story ends with healing. The story ends with redemption. The story ends with wholeness. The story ends with reconciliation. The story ends with the ability to be able to instruct or leave direction for the reader to know, yes, this occurred, this happened in my life too. And I look at you and I don't see what you've been through. You don't look like what you've been through. And so when they read your book, they don't need to read uh, your book in a way that they're still broken or left without instruction when they're done. Okay, so if you're decided, hey Talia, that you want to write about this story, you want to write about, because this is part of who you are, right? This is part of who you are, but you're developing, you're maturing, you're continuing on with your story, and you want a story. And you guys can put this in the chat if this is you, if you have actually considered writing your personal story or portions of your story in a book, but you didn't quite know how to start. You didn't quite understand how much to write about because you didn't want to expose, say it was your mom. You didn't want to expose the fact that you didn't get along with your siblings and that you had a terrible relationship with them. You know, so there is a way that you can write your story and be true and authentic to your story without, like I said, without throwing everybody else under the bus. Okay, so finally, you need to, number 3, you need to use wisdom. Wisdom is the principal thing. Come on. So you need to pray for and ask God for wisdom, because naming names, using explicit details are not necessary in order for you to get your point across. So, like I said, you don't want to write from a place of pain. You want to write from a place of healing. You will continue to evolve. You will continue to journey through. And so, what you write about is something that you want to be able to say helped someone along their way, something that helped them and not left them feeling like they didn't have any solution to the problem that they were in. So maybe that's not your position. Maybe you're writing some other things. But this little tips and 15-minute coaching this evening was for those of you who are writing your story and you want to know how not to carry some of the pain, some of the baggage from your history over into your book. So number 1, you are going to, remember, we're going to go through these steps. Number 1, you're going to keep a journal. Right. And in this journal is where you're going to keep all of your, you're going to write about your heartbreak. You're going to write about the pain. Maybe you're writing about some of the confusion. Maybe you're writing about the feelings of abandonment and aloneness and writing my life, all of that stuff. This is a place where you can keep that. You're going to write a journal. Number 2, then you're going to, after you've decided that, okay, you've gotten all of that out, and now you can have a discussion maybe with some of the people who maybe cause some of the, and I'm talking from a perspective of maybe someone else caused the pain, but guess what? Maybe it was you. Maybe it was you who dropped the ball. Maybe it was you through ignorance and through some of your own pain, didn't treat people right, didn't treat people fairly, didn't give them the best version of you. Maybe it was you. Okay, so even in writing about that, go back to those people and get their perspective on it. Sometimes it just takes a conversation for healing to take place. Okay, and the third thing is you want to make sure that you are using wisdom. You are in control of what you write. Okay, now you are in control about what's going on. It's black and white, what's in black and what's on those pages. So what you want to do is you want to leave the best version of yourself and be accountable. Be open to hear. You don't want to say that. I've had several manuscripts that have been presented to me, and I said, hey, you know what, I think you might want to take a little more time to step away from this for a minute, or maybe this particular chapter, or and step away from a minute and revisit your feelings, because clearly from what I am reading, you are still in pain, you are still upset, you are still disgruntled, you're still bitter or angry about this situation, and you don't want your reader to be able to pick that up as the bitter person, right? No, you want to be the better person. So use wisdom, talk to the people, and keep your journal. I want to just encourage you, every single one of you who at the beginning of this year, you decided that possibly that you were going to start 2023 and you were going to write your book. You know, what are you waiting on? What are you waiting on? 2022, you said you'd be finished. This is the year that you're going to be accountable. This is the year that I'm encouraging every single one of you to start writing your book. You do have something to say. You do have a story that can benefit, even if it's something as simple and small as how to create the best pancakes in the city. Maybe that's your niche, whatever the case may be, whether it's an ebook. I believe every person has at least one story that can be told that can benefit the audience. Listen, my name is Inger Taylor. I just want to spend these few minutes with you this evening to give you a little tips and coaching on how to write your story without bleeding on the people. Leave me some comments in the comment section if you are interested. Maybe even if you're stuck about writing your story, you don't know what to say, you don't even know how to start it. I'd be glad to give you some few tips and personal one-on-one time. It's been good talking to you. I promise, and I have committed myself that I will come on at least maybe once a month or so to give you some tips. If you have something specific that you got a question about and you want to discuss, or you want me to answer, put that in the chat, and I'll see you guys next time. Also, before I go, I want you guys to know that if you go to www.Induce Season Publishing, I do have it's an ebook and a paperback. It's called I Write Pre-Publishing Planner. It's full of bonuses, bonus prayers, and scripture that helps you while you're writing your book. You'll have writing tips, a launch prayer, monthly goals, an I Write calendar where you'll be able to document how many words you have committed to writing daily. Maybe it's weekly. You'll have a quarterly social media check-in, a social media calendar, a place for you to write your journal notes, and launch reminders. What are you going to do when it's time that your baby has been birthed? What's to do next? So here it is. It's the I Write Pre-Publishing Planner, along with some of the I Write gear. Leave me some of your comments in the chat, and I'll talk to you guys later.